Morning, even afternoon, we got a banger for y'all today, baby. I got a video from Reticles here, Hector, also known as. I got his links in the description of this video. Be sure to go check this dude out, man. In this video, he goes over a list of things and reflects on things that I think we all miss from Verdansk. Let me know in the comments if you think you missed anything. I hope y'all enjoy this, and if you're excited for Verdansk early next year, hit the like, hit the sub, most importantly. Be sure to tell us about it. Love 'em. I'll catch you in the next one.
Here are 15.
I'm gonna say at the front of this, I'm eating. Okay, of course. It's not acai bowl. I'm hungry, but I want to react to this with Hector, what we miss about Verdansk.
Things that only OG Warzone players will remember. And there's even a couple of these, even if you're an OG, you might not recall. Starting off at number 1 is bunny hopping.
I'm gonna know all this, bro.
Bunny hopping was one of those things that the community absolutely loved, and for whatever reason, Call of Duty decided to take it out. In Modern Warfare 2, that decision was made, and we haven't seen it since. I remember the days when challenging corners and hitting a bunny hop and absolutely frying kids. Sadly, this is no longer the case. Again, I really do wish they could bring this back somehow, and I hope that they do maybe in the next Call of Duty, but sadly, it's not here at the moment.
It's kind of cool Hector's doing videos like these.
For number 2, I asked a question on Twitter, and I said, what do you miss the most from OG Warzone? And Nadia responded with this. Smokes not being meta and having to have actual game sense for rotations. Smoke metas took out a huge skill gap. For those of y'all who don't recall, back in the day, smokes were used, but not heavily. At the moment, right now, smokes are spammed left and right, and literally every player has around 5 to 6 smokes in their backpack.
That is true.
Back in the day, you had to rely on your movement, on stims, on other things, apart from using smokes. This pretty much made it to where you had to actually have game sense and rotate early, and things kind of felt more like a BR, which we'll get into in a little bit. Now, for number 3, I asked Diaz Biffle what he thought, and this is what he said.
Oh, the vehicles? Oh, for sure.
The vehicles?
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't think anyone uses vehicles in this
When
game.
did D dye his hair?
Covered car.
So maybe some of you guys don't remember because it's been so long since we've had this, but back in Warzone 1, we had vehicles that actually felt very fast. In Warzone
Hector, you better have an honorable mention here for the OG Bertha, the very first version of it.
2, for whatever reason, they decided to slow everything down. All the guns, they tried to make them more realistic and made them to where they had to ramp up. The helicopters back in Warzone 1 were really, really fast. You could get on them, get out of them incredibly quickly. You would press on the gas pedal and the helicopter would instantly go up or down. Now, everything kind of has like a ramp up. Now, this is not just for the helicopters. This is for all vehicles as a whole. The cars now take forever to turn left to right. They feel more realistic, but they all feel really clunky because of that. Back in Warzone 1, you could use cars and you could drift left and right. You could make very tight
Just like
turns.
the Bertha.
Those cars back in the day were so fluid. Coming in number 4 is the Growl. This
I'm housing this thing. I'm gonna get brain freeze. I'm gonna have honorable mention here. The very first time the game came out, the Bertha drove a certain way and they changed it because it was so strong and it was so you couldn't shoot through it, and it literally drove like the car. It was insane. That first Bertha was incredible. Arguably one of the best items of the game. I'm sure there's going to be some guns here. Gra, the original Car 98.
This gun is probably one of the most fan-favorite guns in the history of Warzone. At one point during Warzone's life cycle, the Growl was considered the best gun in the game. From its amazing iron sights to absolutely zero recoil, to being able to shoot from miles away, this gun was honestly incredibly satisfying. I remember multiple times where streamers like Swag, Diaz Biffle, and Aiden dropped their PRs using this. There's so many guns from back in the day that I feel like were significantly better than everything that we have now. I can't quite put my finger on why, but the guns back in the day just felt so satisfying. It felt like almost every single gun was usable, and the Growl was second to nothing. Now, some people love the Growl, but some people also hated it. The people that loved the Growl was because it was incredibly easy to use and was incredibly powerful. But the people that hated it were because everybody could shoot straight with it. These no recoil metas have always been you either love it or you hate it. Me personally, I love the Growl. Coming in number 5 is another fan favorite gun that maybe you might not remember, but this gun is the Kilo. Similar to the Growl, the Kilo was an absolute
M13 honorable mention.
Could kill people from literally miles away with zero recoil. Another reason why this gun became a fan favorite was because this gun started the 2.5x meta. For those of you that don't recall, back in Verdansk, most people at the beginning were rocking red dot sights or iron sights. Then somebody decided to put on a 2.5x on the gun and realized that this was probably the best sight in all of Warzone, and to this day, most guns use things such as the 2.5x. The Kilo was one of those guns that honestly, there was never really an engagement where you couldn't challenge. It had a really big size magazine, and honestly, you didn't really have to be one of the best players in the world to use it. For number 6, and I consider this one a big one, is no backpacks.
I would say inventory system in general. Like even the looting system, I miss.
A lot of people will say that the decline of Warzone started when backpacks were introduced. There's a lot of different things that contributed to this. A big part of it was Warzone 2 and all the animations changed. Everything made the game slower, but backpacks did change Warzone fundamentally. So how exactly did things change? What is different back then to now?
Selves.
I think one thing
You can stack selves, you can stack kill streaks. You couldn't do that before.
we all need to remember is sometimes less is more. Back in Warzone 1, the looting system was so easy. You had your primary gun, your secondary gun,
Hector.
you had your streaks, and you had your ammo. It was nothing crazy. It was very easy for anybody to pick up the game and just play. It reminded us of old Call of Duties. Now, with the current Warzone, you have this backpack mechanic that you're able to hold 5 different streaks.
All the
one and
smokes.
3 different sets of smokes, 20 plates. It's just gotten to the point where it's a little excessive. I know some of y'all know this, but backpacks will be gone going into the next game. But I'm so excited to see Call of Duty going back to what worked, the simple things. I really do think this was a huge factor contributing to why Warzone fell off. Back in Warzone 1, you couldn't really spam lethals or tacticals. In the current gen Warzone, you can quite literally have up to 10 nades, 10 smokes, which makes for a complete imbalance in my opinion. The era of no backpacks is returning and I am incredibly excited for it. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys like backpacks or do you guys kind of like the simpler route? Moving on to number 7 is another fan favorite gun. This is the OTS. Okay, so the OTS was during the Cold War meta. This gun was
I guess I was thinking more OG.
incredible. The OTS was one of those that had amazing movement speed, had really good strafe, and hit like a truck. It didn't have the biggest magazine.
missed the AS
but it was
Val and
still
shooting
efficient
through
in
walls.
getting 1v2s, 1v3. One thing that really helped this gun was its fast reload speed. This was genuinely one of the best all-around guns in the game, and you could build it for range. You could build it for medium range. You could build it for up close, quick. Honestly, the guns back in Cold War were some of my favorites. I'm sure if I do a poll down below, the OTS is one of the most fan favorite guns probably ever. It felt like you could use practically every single gun as opposed to now where
I will be shocked if he doesn't say the OG MP5 in this video. I will be floored.
there's
by the
only
way.
2 to 3 guns that you could use, and if not, you're
We're already
getting
talking
smoked.
about Cold
So
War
again,
guns.
I really do hope that one day we can get back to that nostalgia feel of, hey, I can pick up any gun and it's somewhat viable. For number 8, this is another big one.
I agree
and
with
that
this
is
completely.
floating
This
loot.
is
For
what I
those
was
of y'all who
talking
don't
about
know,
earlier.
floating loot back in the day was just as it sounds. It was loot that was floating off the ground.
It was so
in
much easier.
Warzone 2, everything changed. And yes, this is another thing that changed as well. Loot changed from floating
Hey, it's
like
me.
Fortnite to on the ground and on shelves. This introduced so many different problems where guns were stacking on top of each other. You couldn't really grab things off of shelves. Honestly, one of the worst things that they've ever done, and I do miss the OG.
How bald did I look there, bro? Bro is bald.
On looting, that is what made Warzone good, in my opinion. Right now, you have to worry about what's in your inventory, how much things you have to manage, how many smokes do you have, can you pick up things off the floor? It is a clustered mess.
I agree.
I do hope that one day things go back to that. Why they changed it, I have no clue. Maybe for realism. It is what it is. Modern Warfare 2 changed the game, in my opinion, for the worse. I just hope that one day things will get better. Now, for number 9, this could be controversial. I asked Twitter, and they said, BR actually feeling like battle royale. So in the current
Yeah, it feels like
Warzone, we
resurgence.
have so many different ways to come back. There's so many lives to the point where battle royale doesn't feel like battle royale anymore. In my
agree with that.
eyes, I do agree on this. Battle royale feels like a glorified resurgence. There is gulag tokens, redeploy flares, buybacks that are hella cheap. In my opinion, the
buy
value to your
gulag
life
tokens.
in the game just doesn't really matter anymore. If you die, you can instantly come back. Now, I know some people love this and I get it. Battle Royale back in the day, it felt intense. Getting a win back in the day felt absolutely insane. I remember seeing on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat,
Sorry, guys, I
everybody
did a
posting their
couple X's
wins
really quick.
because that was such a big deal back in the day. Now, it feels like every win doesn't really matter. And I think a big part of that is due to how many times you're able to come back and redeploy. And
I agree
because
fully with
there's
this.
no really value to your life. In my opinion, I think Resurgence should stick to Resurgence and Battle Royale should stick to Battle Royale. I remember how hard it was back in the day where you knew if you're in a 1v4, you're in a 1v3, you have to play smart. Your life actually matters. With the introduction to all these new mechanics and all these ways to redeploy, it really did change the fundamental feeling of Warzone. Now, there are some people that love this and there are some people that hate it. I know if you love Resurgence, you might like this a little bit more. If you don't, you're gonna hate this. I personally love both game modes. When it comes to BR, I want to feel like my life matters when I'm playing. If two game modes have the same feel, then what's the point? Somewhere along the lines, things have kind of meshed together and BR just genuinely feels like Resurgence. That could be a hot take, but a lot of people in my Twitter comments did say they
I fully agree with Hector on this, by the way.
felt this. Now for number 10, it's another fan favorite. This is being able to shoot out of the sky. Back in the day, you would be able to instantly jump out of the plane and shoot people as you're coming down with your pistol.
I don't know why they got rid of that.
This made for some crazy plays and some intense situations. And I know that gave people little hits of dopamine that we all love. It was always dope to be on the giving end of that. The receiving end of that felt horrible because you'd be flying and you pull your chute and try to get as far as possible, and then you get shot out of the sky by somebody right behind you. Now I can see why Call of Duty took that out. Some people probably hated it and felt like
there's a clip of me. I'd go to shoot someone out of the sky, and like 3 people immediately turned around and like chased me. I will never forget that clip from Verdansk. It was so funny,
couldn't
bro.
actually play the game. Whether they bring that back or not, I have no idea. But this is just one of the few things that maybe we might have not recalled until now. For number 11, I'm gonna take this back to OG days. Shout out my man Damon Barlow. He put in the comments in the Twitter post and he said grappling hooks.
True.
Grappling hook was something that honestly was absolutely crazy. This is a very Treyarch inspired equipment. You could grab the grappling hook and pretty much swing to any place that you wanted. I remember seeing some crazy plays out of Karma, some crazy plays out of Formal. Honestly, it made the game really, really fun. Now, some of y'all might not remember that because I was in the Blackout days, but if this returned, I do think this would make for some insane plays and could be a really cool way to get around and use movement to your advantage. How this would work, I don't know. Would this be something like a specialist? Would this be some type of equipment? Not too sure, but I really do think Call of Duty needs to go back to feeling arcadey and doing random fun things. For number 12 is Superstore. This is without a doubt the most popular point of interest ever. Do you remember when dropping into Verdansk and loading and flying into Superstore and pulling your chute and seeing hundreds of players landing Superstore? It made for the most chaotic engagements ever. It made for crazy plays. You could leave Super with 15 plus kills. In the current Warzone, there's nothing that gives you that level of dopamine. For whatever reason, Superstore is the best POI ever in my opinion. I think the big reason for this was because there wasn't that many levels of verticality. There was only 3 floors: the first floor, the second floor, and the roof. That meant that most of your engagements were pretty much face to face. And they didn't just stop at just making the best POI. They also updated it when Verdansk 84 came out. In my opinion, one of the things that the current Warzone is lacking is good points of interest. All these POIs feel like they don't have character, feel that they don't have life. If you close your eyes and think about Verdansk, you think of Superstore, you think of Boneyard, you think of Hospital. All these amazing POIs that felt like they had life. And I feel like now that's not really the case. For number 13, I'm gonna use Iron's response to my tweet. Iron said, being able to see what I'm shooting at. It's been 84 years. So what this is implying is 2 things. Back in the day, there was no visual recoil and there was no smoke on guns. What visual recoil is pretty much your gun and your screen shaking whenever you shoot your gun. If you compare side by side Warzone 1 visual recoil and Warzone 2 visual recoil, it's night and day. Now on top of that, there was no smoke muzzles whenever shooting in Warzone 1. In Warzone 2, it feels like there's a cloud right in front of you and you can't even see whatever you're shooting. To make things worse, if you're a controller player, you don't notice it as much because aim assist is helping you. If you're a keyboard player like Iron, you have to be able to see everything that you're shooting. So this really did mess up a lot. So in my opinion, I really do think this has got to go. And they have done a better job from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3. But even then, there is still visual recoil and there is still smoke, even if it is slightly less. For number 14 is emotes. I know some of y'all don't even remember this, but back in the day, we had emotes
you could,
that we could
use the middle finger and stuff.
Enemies. There was one that was a bag of tea that would dip into a coffee cup. There was one where you would give the middle finger to the enemy players. There was also one where you could smoke a cigar. Why they decided to take these off, I have no idea. I remember back in the day, 1v3 and 1v4, and whenever enemy players were watching me and spectating me, I would bring out the cigar and just be smoking on that pack. Emotes are one of those things that we didn't really know we had till it's gone. All these cool plays and all the cool content
and
that
the
was
sprays
made
too. They got rid of the
emotes,
sprays as
I
well.
feel like is a history in of its own. Now, the good thing is emotes are coming back for this year. So I hope to see some pretty crazy emotes. Let me know if you guys are excited for this as well. Now, last but not least is custom reticles. Back in Warzone 1, you would unlock different sites. Now, as you leveled up that site, you would unlock different reticles for it. For example, the red dot could be transformed into a smiley face or even a mustache. Now, I don't even know if you guys remember this, but these were really fun to unlock and gave us for different variations of things that we normally use every single day. There were certain reticles that gave you an advantage, for example, T-pose, and some that were just meant just to be funny and silly. Now, thank the COD gods because this is returning this year.
Oh,
I
nice.
do hope that one day we can get something like being able to change your red dot to a blue dot, to a purple dot, to a pink dot, whatever color dot that you want. These are cool things that I think could make your gun feel that much more personalized to you. Now, let me know in the comments down below, what did you miss from the OG Warzone and what do you want to return?
Hector's doing videos like that too. I think for me, the main thing I would say that I feel like Hector missed was the OG MP5. I'd put that there. I would put the OG Car 98 in there too. I know we have both those things right now, but those were like, in my opinion, bigger staples than the Gurl and the Kilo, me personally. But I think one thing, I got to wrap this up. I think one thing we all can agree on is that when Warzone first came out, obviously it was during lockdown and all that, and it kind of became this breath of fresh air to game with your friends again. I don't know, man. I don't really know how to explain it. Like, I was living in that, you know, playing with Nick, Clock, Swag, PK, even Ninja hopped on Warzone a little bit. But when that first came out, it kind of swept the nation a little bit, swept the world, I dare say, about, you know, just getting like, oh, I'm hopping on Warzone. When are you hopping on? You know, hitting up your friend, locking in with your friend, hopping in, playing the game. There's this feeling that Warzone brought back to me that I haven't had it in a minute now. You know, who knows? Maybe BO6 brings that back with the new Warzone. I don't know, but like I've said this before in a couple times on these reaction videos, but like OG Warzone was like a Fortnite in a sense. Fortnite still obviously changed the game completely, right? But Warzone, with the timing and how new it was, I think it was its own just pillar, if you will. And you know, kind of living in that moment, you don't know what you got till it's gone, right? So hopefully OG Verdansk brings that back to us later, early next year. We'll see.